Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. How is everyone doing this evening? I hope all is well. Beautiful chaos. Thank you for being here. Callahan, Cherie, Carla, Miranda, Alan, Don Frazier, Carl, good to see you. JJ and Lulu. I have no idea what's going on with the chat names. Brenda Johnson, Regina Briggs, Dale Hodges. Fullness Awakening. Mitch Gander, the other Deborah, not that Deborah. Melinda. 8 God Bog 8. Ted Smith. Yeah, I really prefer the other names because I don't really know who anyone is. Do you guys remember a baby Christian we had come into our community for a brief period of time named Josiah? We had a baby Christian come in our community, and I guess during his brief span on YouTube, he was listening to other channels and this and that. But, you know, he's a baby Christian. His name's Josiah. Every now and then I hear from him. You know, I've been trying to get him to come back to the channel, but, you know, I'll give you the short story. About a year ago, someone started messing with his head saying that because he took that thing, you know, that thing, that his DNA has been changed and he is taken the mark of the beast and is damned to hell. I got a text from him again this afternoon saying, this is what he said, quote, "I hate this. Christianity has only brought me intense religious trauma and soul-crushing thoughts. I'm tired of this already. Why is DNA such a big deal? Am I not part of the only remnant or 12 tribes to be saved or whatever the game God is playing? Because my DNA is changed to fallen angel tech, sticky alien goo, or whatever the heck other BS? Why doesn't John 3:16 say God only comes for the genetically pure? Why does the book say all who believe will be saved and not all who have been perfect DNA will be saved? Being a Christian has only destroyed my life and my family. I wish I never became one. Either way, my life is destroyed. My relationship with my family is destroyed, and I want to get help from a therapist now. Maybe I think I want to try that instead." Let me tell you what, whoever has been passing along the narrative that by getting that, you took the mark of the beast. And I've said this before. This is about the 5th time over the last year that I've mentioned this. There's a Bible verse. I can't recall the verse off the top of my head, but it's along the lines of any one of those who causes one of these little ones to stumble, you're better off having a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the deep. And this applies to you. If you were one of those that have been telling people if they took that they are damned for life, may God have mercy on your soul is all I can say. This isn't the first baby Christian that I get messages like this, but this is one I've been trying to get to for quite some time. Matter of fact, I've given his number out on the show, and I know many of you have tried to reach to him as well. I don't know why he won't listen, believer. It weighs heavy on my heart, though. Anyways, just wanted to share that with you. I know it's probably not the best way to start the evening, but it weighs heavy on my heart, and I had to vent. You know, guys, I've said everything there is to say to this kid. I don't understand. All it requires is faith. It has nothing to do with your bloodline genetics. I mean, it's a perfect example of there is no Jew or Gentile or whatever he thinks he is. We are all one in Christ. But on that note, let's pray. We're going to pray for Josiah. You guys want to bow your heads? Heavenly Father, I come before you tonight with Josiah, a baby Christian, on my heart. Father, you see his pain, the confusion, the heaviness he is carrying. You know every tear he has cried, every question that has kept him awake at night, and every lie that the enemy has tried to plant into his mind. Lord, I ask you to silence every voice of fear, every voice of confusion that is not from you. Replace that with truth of your word and comfort of your spirit. Father, I declare over Josiah that his salvation is not based on his DNA, on what anyone has done to him or any weapon formed against him, but solely on the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross. I speak the promise of John 3:16 over him, that whoever believes in you shall not perish but have everlasting life. Remind him tonight that his name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life because of his faith, and nothing in heaven or on earth can snatch him out of your hand. Lord, wrap him in your peace. Heal the wounds of the religious trauma and the false teachings that have caused this. Restore his joy in you, Father. Surround him with true brothers and sisters who will speak life. Build him up and walk beside him without judgment. Let him feel the reality of your presence and know that you have never abandoned him, not for a moment. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke every spirit of fear, hopelessness, despair, and I release comfort, clarity, and renewed faith into his heart. Father, thank you. You are his shepherd. You will lead him beside still waters and restore his soul. I trust you to finish the good work you began in Josiah, and to lead him into freedom, love, and the purpose you had prepared for him. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. You know, that's it's disheartening, you know. So I've been working on this one for quite some time. Someone sent me a video earlier that I'm going to play during my coffee break, because it's an interview that a gentleman came on from Redacted, talking about what really the governments have going on. And I figured what a great time to bring something like this forward, because I've talked on this in the past. God confidence. I think the only thing that can help Josiah is Josiah and the Lord. I've planted and said all the things that could be said over the last year, and we're the seed planters. We're not the healers. The Lord is. Oh, on another note, you guys see other folks are following up now with the whole red heifer thing? I've seen other folks starting to report I read the post from the farmer, the ranch owner that blew the whistle on the red heifer. I think about a week ago I talked about it. Something must be confirming because everybody else is on that train now. Well, I know the shot is not the case. Both of my parents took it. They regret it, but they're still the same loving mom and dad. And even though they had cardiac issues for about 6 months, we got that resolved. So for decades, guys, a hidden war has been waged for the highest ground of all human conflict, which is the mind. All my research, I put the links in the description as well because I've been working on this one for a while. You'll find all the links in the description. What began in secrecy under the MK Ultra was a systematic breaking and reshaping of thought, drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and psychological manipulation. And what I'm going into tonight directly ties into the Black Awakening and many other things. Have you guys noticed an increase in isolated shooters? Did you guys notice that the July 13th attempt on the president's life, that the story behind that kid was very interesting? He had been spending time with DOD, Homeland Security, and right after he was taken out against his family's will, they cremated his body. If you were to go back on every mass shooting over the last decade, you would find a common thread. What they are doing, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe they're testing the programming. Because every one of their families, when you look into the family history, are connected to the occult. What's Hydra? You don't remember there was a movie where Hydra was the enemy. So what we're seeing here is this is part of a mass exposure, in part due to the 1970s program that truly never ended. This is a program the gentleman on Redacted talks about. This is a program that my father was involved in. It evolved through a global web of technology and data integration, behavioral conditioning, military research aimed at influencing perception, controlling behavior, and ultimately rewriting the very code of every human thought. You've seen that Noah Harari talk about this programming, about hacking the human mind. I tell you, now I understand why my father has a flip phone from 2003 and has no internet in his house and no electronics, my father has a checkbox when you get to the front door. It's a little Faraday box that all phones have to be dropped in before you come in the home. He won't ever talk about anything. But based off of his behavior, it's got to be interesting, I'll tell you that. They purposely got a house where there's not a cell phone tower within 10 miles. Nothing with internet is on their property. This little Faraday box is a containment box where none of these, whatever these phones are putting off, radiates out of them. He won't ever explain. My mom doesn't even ask. But can you imagine having spent 40 years inside of a black area, knowing what they're doing to mankind, and not being able to talk about it? So what we have today is something that's evolved into a global web of technology and data integration, behavioral conditioning, military research aimed at influencing the perception and controlling behavior. And each and every one of you, everyone that's watching this right now, the very way your brain works is being recoded. Kids today, they're not growing up in the same environment as we did. You know, folks that are my age, we grew up riding our bikes. There was no phone. When you left the house, you went off into the ether. And, you know, your mom yells at you down the street, be home by sunset for dinner. Today's tools of controls have merged into a digital prison, a digital matrix that touches every life, just about every life on Earth. Did you know that these brain-computer interfaces, these biometric surveillance predictive algorithms, are actual direct energy weapons and provide a constant conditioning of connected devices that are forming the infrastructure of the beast system foretold in Revelation? Did you know that there's complete labs for some of the blackest sites inside the three-letter agencies where all the coders, all the programming, their minds are hardwired into the matrix? And instead of typing out their code and their programming, they're thinking it. See, these systems promise convenience and healing, but they carry the power to enslave minds, dissolve free will, and to eliminate the God-breathed spirit with a tethered global silicone network. See, the most dangerous feature of this system, it's its voluntary nature as people's willingly plug in, trading their mind's sovereignty for comfort and convenience. The only true escape is not all the things that society will tell you. The only true escape is the kingdom of God. To resist Babylon's call, we must disconnect from everything, everywhere possible. Everywhere possible. I'll tell you right now, if the ministry did not require me to have these things and this stuff to reach you guys, I would toss it in the trash. I've disconnected as best I can in my circumstances. Unplugged all the Alexas, threw them in the closet. Many of you will text me and not get responses until hours later. It's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just half the time the phone is dinging so often, I just keep the ringer off and leave it in another room so I'm away from it half of the time. But really, guys, there is an exodus needed. An exodus from Babylon. And when we get the funding to build our ark, I'll be the first to tell you right now, there will be no electronics in this place. We'll be going back to the 70s. We'll be going back to the 70s. I'll be purposely disconnected. This whole place, our only source of communication will be one of these old school ham radios. No 5G, no Wi-Fi, no internet, no anything that's plugged into the system. I know some people will buck at that idea, especially the kids, but that's at the cost of your freedom. You know, I think the Amish had it all figured out. You know, I grew up next to the Mennonites in Pennsylvania, and we used to make fun of them as kids. They maybe have gone a little too far with no zippers and a few other things, but boy, did they have it right, did they not? Your ark is a spaceship, Odin? That's neat. Several of us are building our safe haven arks when the time is right. I don't think anyone's going to buck at the idea of disconnecting from the grid, going back to the way of just growing food organically, communicating with your loved ones the old-fashioned way, face-to-face, reading books. Everybody would probably feel a lot better as well, not having their minds and bodies saturated with frequencies day in and day out. What if I told you, though, for the battle for your soul has already moved into the battlefield of your mind? What began as hidden laboratories as the MK Ultra in the UK now has grown into a global system reaching into your home, every device that has internet capability. And now they're tapping into your thoughts. Every screen you look at, every network you connect to, every convenience you accept as part of a larger plan to reshape what you believe and who you serve. This beast system, as I mentioned about a year ago, this is not coming. It's here. It promises progress, but it's preparing chains. It offers you connection, but it demands your allegiance. It offers you convenience, but it costs you your freedom. And the most dangerous part is that most people will willingly walk right into it without realizing the trap. As I've mentioned already, there is only one way to be free, and it's not found in politics or protest or anything that the common person will think of. It is found in total surrender to Jesus Christ. It is 100% disconnecting from the grip of Babylon. It is filling your mind and your heart with the living Word of God until no force on earth can move you. And that is the honest to God's truth. The deception is here. The hour is late. every sign in the Bible that the Lord gave us is happening. See, the starting point right here is simple and sobering. The existence of a clandestine U.S. mind control program linked to the U.K. is not a rumor. It is documented in declassified files. I know this program a little too well just because of family. Now congressional investigations have opened up and they've dragged a sliver of what this once was into the daylight and are bringing out and rolling out what truly happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but they're not doing this, guys, to blow the whistle. They're doing it to desensitize you because you have a company called Palantir that while everyone's distracted with whatever the current shenanigans is on the news, Palantir is hardwiring everything into our minds as we are sitting here talking about it. See, the United States Senate Intelligence Committee compiled hundreds of thousands of testimonies showing a program that has set out to manipulate everyone's consciousness on this planet and a behavior under the banner of MK Ultra related efforts such as Bluebird and Artichoke. And these records you see an architecture of a project that recruits academic physicians, prison wardens, hospital administrations, and they have formulated a system that weaponizes psychology, pharmacology, hypnosis, all for the name of national security. This is not a matter of internet folklore or something I dug up off the darknet. You can read these declassified CIA memorandas on the Senate's own website. Just go to the Project MK Ultra. You can read it yourself and see the institutional gravity of what I am talking about. They have published these things for everyone's viewing because they are so far into this system, there's nothing anyone can do about it. We are in the 4th generation of this project, otherwise known as the Black Awakening. Within the architecture, the operations, when you read these whistleblower reviews and testimonies, it reveals how far they have crossed over the line. I remember one project my father used to talk about called Operation Midnight Climax. He talked about a CIA safe house in San Francisco dealing with the New York people where men were lured in by sex workers, then drugged, and they would watch to see what the reactions were and probe for behavioral circumstances afterwards. The 3-letter agencies used to do all sorts of crazy things like this, and it became a secret that started to run rampant all throughout the world and eventually moved underground, became part of many little people trafficking rings built on national security research for checking to see how people's profile would respond to certain situations based off of lust and stimuli. It was all a bunch of BS. It was excuses. It was excuses to go deeper, go further. Because these practices were drug-induced, they would keep these people up for days and weeks at a time. A lot of these folks that they ended up kidnapping, they would stick them in a room, keep them awake for a week, and loop recorded messages, and require them to sit there and listen. At the idea and the effect of eroded identity and memory, and they called this a course of healing. If I told you some of the things that the three-letter agencies have done over the last 40 years, you guys wouldn't believe me. They've gone as far as using LSD. Matter of fact, one of their Moonchild agents through the 60s and 70s kind of went off the rails. Charlie Manson. These experiments have been the subject of official lawsuits and records all around the world, financial records that follow them wherever they go, research grants that were framed as national defense agencies, but what they were is psychological warfare. But see, this has never been about national security. This has been about reprogramming the human genome to human 2.0. Their idea is to take away the cognitive liberty behind every person on this planet. Long before the brain-computer interfaces had made headlines, they argued that they had the right to help you decide on what was best for you for national security. So we must now bridge from what they were doing over the last 40 years in laboratories, now what they are doing in real life as a clandestine just experiment to work electronics and frequencies into your life. Are you guys aware of how many frequencies surround us on any given day? What the Wi-Fi frequencies do, the 5G frequencies do? I will tell you this. There's something called 6G coming, and this could be the precipice when this goes online. Because what they're doing now is they're passing this off as health therapy. What they're doing as well is working with Palantir, Peter Thiel, and the Elon Musk with Neuralink. And they're trial running these human implantations of a wireless brain-computer device interface. But they will report that they have only had a few subjects that have reported well, but that's not the truth. There are underground labs with hundreds of these computer Neuralink interfaces with agents that are doing very advanced things with artificial intelligence, AI, quantum programming, direct thought manipulation, things that would really leave you guys speechless. What would you think the number is of people reporting psychosis, psychological issues? How much do you think it's gone up in percentage-wise over the last 20 years? People that are on antidepressants, people that feel like they are, quote, quote, losing their mind, people that are hearing voices. What would you say if I told you that the reports of these increase on antidepressants, hearing voices, uncontrollable thoughts, uncontrollable movements has gone up over 35,000% just in the last 2 decades. I wonder why that is. 25,000. 25,000. 25,000. 25,000. 25,000. I didn't even know percentages could go that high. You remember, for those of you, we're probably a lot of us are the same age. If you go back to us, the kids that grew up in the 70s and 80s, I was in my late teens in the early 90s. No one I know was on antidepressants. None of the kids were on any type of medication. Maybe one rare kid that had asthma. Maybe one rare kid that needed an insulin shot. But that's not the case anymore. I didn't know anyone that was on any of these different medications. But now 1 in 3 are. Diabetics, ADHD, personality disorders. It's the norm, especially with young boys. Teenagers right now, they can't stand still. It's like their mind is permanently overstimulated. I see it with myself, my young Ashton, who is 16. Everything that he does, there's electronics involved. Kids always walking around with headphones on their heads. And God forbid you take away their device. We'll talk about total meltdown. It's really sad to see it. Yeah, Big Sure might get it. You know, I tried to be as supportive as I could for our president for quite some time. I'm not going to go down the trail of talking negatively just because the Lord has asked me not to, but I will tell you this. I'm very suspicious about many things. I used to try to defend him just because he was what I believe is an elected leader that the Lord put in place, which could still be very much the case, but what he was put in place for, I think, is within question. Yeah, trust is gone, Carla. See, the defense world has answered a question to its own idiom by investing directly into high-performance interfaces that do not require open brain surgery. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, openly funds research into bidirectional non-surgical neural interfaces for able-bodied service members, describing potential uses that include controlling unmanned systems teams with computers doing complex missions an active cyber defense. In other words, human-machine teaming that moves at the speed of thought. Go back to what I just said. DARPA has published this on their own website, but what they don't publish is the incredible size of underground labs for the Defense Department. And each one of these labs have hundreds of agents that operate direct computer control interface. Literally, they are hardwired, mind with computer and AI and quantum system, and it's tapped into all of our surveillance, all of our defense, and it moves at the speed of thought. If you look into what Peter Thiel is doing with the company I just named, it would make you not want to own anything with Wi-Fi once you realize what exactly they're doing, because everything that is electronic that has a Wi-Fi signal is designed to work together in a giant spider web to always be collecting data on you, building a profile on you. They have gathered such a profile thick data collect that they can anticipate what you're going to do next. They can anticipate when you're going to go to the bathroom, how you would react at any circumstances, what you would do if XYZ happened, what you would do if XYQP happened. I wonder why they need to know these things. Makes you wonder, huh? Why would they need to know exactly how you're going to act and respond? I can give you the answer. I'm sure you guys know that too. Because here's the bigger picture. In the not too distant future, I'm guessing within probably the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to have to swear allegiance to something or you won't be able to buy or sell. And those who refuse this allegiance, they will be hunted. Meanwhile, over the next 2 or 3 years before this system is greenlit, they're going to build profiles on everybody. And what I'm getting at is we really need to take steps starting like today. Everybody should have VPNs on their devices. I'm not even sure if that's good enough, but I run a double stacked VPN on my phone. I've disconnected pretty much everything in my house that has internet control except for what I need in this room. I don't even know if that's good enough. What I'm saying is we need to make an effort to stop feeding the breadcrumbs to the algorithms. And I'm serious. Now, I used to make fun of my dad about this. Now I totally get it. A decade ago, he said to me, "One day you'll understand." And I laughed at him. I used to mock him. What a fool I was. What a fool. But he said, "One day you'll understand." Guys, I downloaded an app. This is going to blow your mind. There is an app. Let me find it. It's called Smart Home. Where is it? Has anybody ever run a scan on their smart home? Where is it? I only have this app because of my silly little vacuum. Come on. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Let me see here. All right, so you can open this app and it will scan and tell you every device in your house, from light sockets to light bulbs. I didn't even know my dishwasher was a smart device. I didn't know my air conditioner was a smart device. I didn't know I had a light that was a smart device. I did not realize my garage door opener was a smart device. I did not realize that I had 3 power strips that were smart devices. I did not realize I had a breaker that was a smart device. I remember my doorbell being somewhat of a smart device, but now I really do. I have 116 smart devices in my home. And I thought, this is after I've disconnected what I thought were the smart devices. I've killed the Alexas. I've removed the internet off the TVs. I removed the internet off the thermostat. But I still have over 100. And so I started digging. And almost every piece of electronic that's made in the last 5 years, half of the time they don't even advertise that it's a smart device. It's a part of their intel gathering. And you only find out when you scan your house. I never thought about scanning. I only did this because I was hooking up a vacuum, a little bot vacuum type thing. Oh, it's crazy, guys. And I think each and every one of you would possibly end up in a similar boat as me. Because, see, here's the thing. Most of what I just named, they were not advertised as smart devices. They just come that way. Half of them, it's not even in the instruction manual that they are. Do you see where I'm going with this? You have to find out by scanning your home, and then you can Google the device and you find out, yes, it does offer smart device for updates and service. They justify it with service calls or something. It's not meant to be for consumer use. It holds no consumer application. It's for updates, firmware, service calls. Yeah. Back to me telling my dad he was a goofball. And he said, one day you will understand. You know what's also on my list? My freaking toothbrush. My toothbrush. My electric toothbrush. And their justification is for firmware updates. What type of firmware do I need for my toothbrush? Well, needless to say, that was an eye-opener. So, what it is we are in the age of data integration companies built on top of a digital nervous system of the government. Everything circulates around military health services and border agencies. And what they do is they just collect data. And it's for efficiency and civil liberty, is what they say. Critics warn of surveillance dependencies and quiet normalization of this data linkage usage. They say it's for our benefit. I don't buy it. But here's the thing. While the public imagines, the military using like ray guns and people having to wear tinfoil hats, the real debate is around directed energy weapons that create abnormal health incidents inside of every home. Would you guys believe the stats if I told you of folks that are being assaulted by direct energy weapons, even in the privacy of their own home? Acute symptoms that are consistent from different frequency energy manipulation. Being constantly bombarded by certain frequencies, Wi-Fi signals and whatnot actually can drain the body. Ethically speaking, it's a mess. But what's really going on is, while everyone is distracted with whatever they're displaying on the news, they are quietly rewiring the minds and devices of everyone. There was a research done showing that the mere presence of a smartphone can tax the cognitive resources available for other parts of the body. It actually degrades the working memory and silently interrupts with the body's personal rhythm. And there's a blunt statistic that says nearly half of every American teen report being online almost constantly, even as many of them say they feel better when they step back from being online. They did a poll on teenagers, and nearly half, 50% of the teenagers in this world are online at any given moment. Imagine that. Knowing that it has health implications, because when these teenagers, quote, quote, get grounded or suspended from their device, they feel better. They still go back. Now, this isn't a science mind control sci-fi video that we're talking about. This is happening. in our world, because the nervous system of all of these kids are being trained for constant dopamine spikes. And eventually the muscles start to atrophy and their attention span falls prey to this constant need for stimuli. Every parent should care about what I'm saying right now, and I'm equally guilty, just like the rest of us. The grand scheme of things, the way the elites look at us is that we are not humans. We are hackable animals. The World Economic Forum talks about us as animals that can be steered better, summarizing their objectives of reducing population, controlling minds, and dictating what we should eat, think, and do, because they are the elites and they feel like they've got the solution figured out, and that us, we humans, are too dumb to understand the impacts of everything. That's their philosophy in a nutshell. So what it is they have been using the soil of everyone's lives, meaning planting all these different network devices. Run a scan in your car next time to see how much you're being bombarded with frequencies while you drive down the road if you're in a car that's newer than 2010. It's mind control on an industrial scale. And the branches have spread everywhere. MK Ultra on steroids. Mitigated and embedded completely across every technological aspect of everyone's life. Today, the human nervous system is no longer just a biological marvel. It is a node in an interlinked network of device sensors in the beast system. And what's even more interesting is they have a system coming online that will control every node which connects to the brain for the highest groundwork of mind control. Let me restate what I just said in simple terms. They have been planting the mind control of all of us. They've only been testing it in isolated factions. But this constant bombardment of frequencies, yada, 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 for the last decade, has been preparing the body to receive control outside of the autonomy of our own brain. How do we prevent it? I don't know. I'm going to say we seek the Lord. I'm going to say we need to really disconnect from Babylon. And I don't say all this stuff to cause any alarm. This is stuff that I've known about and been working on. And it's someone sent me a video today from a whistleblower that went on redacted. And the reason I'm talking about this is that they're entering the final phase before what they call the activation point. Yes. I believe so as well. I believe the blood of Christ is absolutely king over everything. When you guys have a moment, research into what Palantir is. Research into what DARPA's N3 program is. Because on the outside, they paint it to look like a medical marvel. They're able to give eyesight back to people that could not see. But let me tell you, with everything, there's always a flip side to the coin. It's never going to be used for just good. Maybe when the new heaven comes to earth. But right now there is wicked leaders that literally I would encourage each and every one of you to research the history of covert behavioral sciences. It would interest you. Start with Charlie Manson. Does anybody know the Charlie Manson story? That was ground zero for what I'm talking about. This came from the Nazis in the late 30s. Why does everything come from the Nazis? Chemtrails are a part of it. Well, I wouldn't say it's covert anymore, but when you go on the nets and start looking, the links to a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is in the description. Normally, I don't provide all this stuff, but I feel like it's important that folks understand what we're dealing with. Oh, I understand that Manson was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But you got to really understand the real story. Has anybody heard the story from Shalom Girl, the babysitter for Elon? I was talking to her for a while. I messaged her the other day after I saw her video pop up on, what was it, NYTV or Midnight Ride or whatever it is. How someone can think that Elon is for the good team, I'm not sure how anyone comes to that conclusion. But you know, there are people that believe that. See, the thing is this. DARPA's N3 program openly documents everything they do. That's the crazy thing about our military. Everything that they do, they document. And they're very forthcoming about this now. What they're doing is they're linking artificial intelligence with these systems. And what it is it's an information control narrative for the civil population. See, the battlefield is now in your own mind. That's where they are going, because their thoughts are a shot doesn't even need to be fired. They've planted all the seeds and all the infrastructure for control. And all they have to do is wait until they have the system ready. Because these technologies don't exist in isolation. They are woven into the mesh of 5th generation and 6th generation telecommunication satellites. It is the Internet of Bodies. People are becoming nodes for this 6th generation telecommunications network. Did you hear what I said? Because of chemtrails, graphene, things that go in, RFID transmitters and receivers enter the bloodstream via nanotech. The actual bodies, because of their walking batteries with RFIDs, and they become nodes to the beast system. And companies like Palantir position themselves as the operator admins. You see where I'm going with this? And all of these unify under one single global government's protocol. Every keystroke, every movement, every biometric fluctuation is processed, profiled, and responded to in milliseconds. Every person is becoming less and less of a citizen and more of an endpoint living algorithm for the node. I know this is a doozy to think about, but I've just scratched the surface on this. Intrinsically speaking, yes, people, us, have MAC addresses. I know it's... But I will say, this is one of the reasons I used to talk about this a lot. This is the one thing that I know, and I'm sure there's others that do this, but this specifically flushes the graphene and heavy metals. This is a part of my daily regiment. It specifically flushes graphene and metals. I used to talk about it a lot more, but I felt like I was pushing like an infomercial, so I backed off on it. Because I never, I don't want people to think that I'm taking advantage of the community by pressing a product that, I get a kickback from TM3. It's not much, but I only promote it because it works. It's the byproduct is that I get a very small percentage of whatever's sold. I mean, it's not much. It's like $3 or something. But if it's not this, you want to find something that does this. That made a difference with my parents. They had issues from the thing. But guys, it matters to me. I would never want anyone to think that I was trying to take advantage of our community. I used to talk about this a lot more often. I feel like it's critically important, but where do you draw the line in trying to influence than help? So me doing this is not about the money. Those of you who have known me for quite some time know I got into this, and it has nothing to do with money because I walked away from truckloads of it. No, T Maria, I think a bottle is like $60 or $70. The link is on the website. The stuff is fabulous, though. Valerie Smith says salt and oil destroys their tech. Debbie Miller says the experts say a VPN is a joke. I mean, I'm not an expert. So do you know which product they are putting graphene in? The chemtrails, the things that they're putting in people's arms, the fresh water supply, processed food, and there's one other I forgot. They're inundating us. They are inundating us with it. And now they're using mRNA in almost all processed food. Do you see that thing that RFK released about the mRNA? They got approval from the FDA. I took a screenshot of it earlier because the health ranger was talking about it. I think I put it on social media too because it was a big deal. What was it? Health ranger, your food will now be sprayed with mRNA toxins. I highly recommend you buy organic or you're eating your way to depopulation. EPA approved mRNA pesticide to spray on food without testing. EPA approved first RNA based spray application. Greenlit by Leprona, a sprayable double strand helo product that targets and they approved it without any tests or trials. How's that even legal? This isn't science fiction, folks. How is that even legal? Well, I will tell you what has been done me justice over the years is the peptides. And many of you, I've sent you the link to all that stuff. Actually, I put all the peptide stuff in the description now. Bondi, baby. Yeah. You know that those things, I think they have devastated the youth. Many of you have kids like myself, and I remember, when the kids were under 10, it seemed like every year or two we had to take them in for a tray full of those things. You remember what I'm talking about? My mom and I were talking about this. We were talking about how when I was a teenager, none of the boys had any like mental disabilities or ADHD or Asperger's or what's the other one? This like Asperger's. What is it called? Trying to think of what that byproduct is. Not autism. Thank you, Andrea. Guys, look up what the stats are on young boys now that have ADHD or are autistic. Would you believe the stats are staggering? Yeah. I think my son has Asperger's. I think Ashton does. But I remember it used to not be a thing. But because my mom was in the medical field and whatnot, we used to talk about this. And, me and my brothers and sisters, we all have children. And there's four of us, and we all have like lots of kids combined. And we've noticed that every one of our children, all of our boys, have some form of slight autism. Some more severe than others. Some more severe than others. But she was telling me, because she comes from a large family as well. So when I was growing up, I had 30 cousins my age, big family. 30 cousins my age. I came from a large family where each of her sisters and brothers had like 6, 7 kids. So we were just a big pack. But none of us had ADHD or autism by any shape or form. I just remember those days we were riding around in the mud in four-wheelers and BB gun wars and riding our bikes and doing crazy things. But what we weren't doing was sitting in front of a screen for 20 hours a day and going to get these things all the time. But now, fast forward to this generation, and when me and my siblings, we sit and talk, and we all have a lot of kids combined, almost every male in my family in that age bracket, children born in the last decade or two, every one of them is either some form of autism or some form of ADHD. Oh, we used to kill it with the BB gun wars. We love BB gun wars. Someone said the sun is too intense. Guys, I was sitting outside next to the pool today at the house, and the sun felt like it was literally melting my skin. Yeah. Joyce, my mom didn't think we would live to see. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Joyce, we were kids, we didn't have the computers and video games, so we were outside. We were building ramps for our bicycles, ramps that went up like 10 feet. And my mom would come out, look at us, and she'd be like, oh, my Lord. And she'd walk back in the house. But, we most of the time always made it home for dinner. Even though we were BB gun wars and shooting each other's eyes out and crazy stuff. Because we were kids. That's what we did. All of you that grew up in that time period, that's what it was about. We're building tree houses and, riding our bikes all over the countryside. It was the good old days. Drank out of a hose? Absolutely. Man, I'll never forget that terrible taste of the water hose water. But boy, when you were outside playing hard, that water hose tasted so good, even though it tasted so bad. Had a go-kart, huh? It was the worst, best taste. It was. There's something about that water hose. It just gave it a taste that was like, bah. But when you're thirsty because you've been outside playing, it's great. My mom made me wear a helmet. My mom would give us the helmet, and as soon as we get out of sight, helmets were off. Yeah. But anybody has anybody noticed, or maybe it's just me, But when I was sitting outside today, the sun, the direct rays were so hot. I had to move out of the direct sun and sit in the shade. Oh, we used to love the roller rink. You guys remember when it would be lock in at the roller rink where everybody stay the night? We used to, you'd look forward to that when you had a girlfriend back in the day, was that lock in at the roller rink. Those were the good old days. The roller rink lock ins. Oh, I used to love those. Kids today have no idea what they missed. If you try to tell them about it, they'd be like, that is so boring. But I tell you what, it was the furthest thing from boring. We had the time of our life. We did. I wouldn't have traded that for anything when in hindsight. Payphones. Disco roller skating. Yeah, we used to put the cards in the bike spokes too. Payphones. Clackers. Kick the can, yes. The tiny NBA shorts. All the girls had that hairsprayed flower right on the top of their head. It was like a little poof ball right here. I forget what you call it. Oh, I love the Christmas Story. Yes, Red Ryder BB gun. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Oh, Back to the Future. That was the great movie back then. Mr. Potato Heads. Yeah, Melinda, good old fist fights. There was no one pulling out a gun. We got mad at each other. We would just punch each other in the face and then shake it off and go back to playing. Nowadays, people get so offended. Yep. Football with no pads. Oh, cap guns were the thing. Oh, breakdancing. I had the big radio, the big boom box that took like 25D batteries that would last 2 hours. What a scam that was. It took like $100 in D batteries to power this thing. And if you accidentally left it on, it'd be dead in a few hours. Huge boombox with two big tape decks. Oh, G.I. Joe. That was the good old days. We definitely thought we were cool. That's funny. I'm gonna warm up coffee. I want you guys to pay attention to this video because this guy, he's a whistleblower that was working in one of these programs. This is worth listening to.
Used for torture, among other things. He's coming forward now because he says we need to sound the alarm and people need to wake up. The mainstream media is completely ignoring this story. And James Martinez joins us now. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to do this.
My pleasure. And so you talk about, you and I talked the other day, we talked about an extinction level event. I want to get into that here, but I think it's important for our audience to, before we get there, to maybe paint a picture of how you got involved with MK Ultra, why you decided to
Right.
blow the whistle, maybe a little backstory so people understand this and what we're facing right now. Would you mind kind of sharing that with our
Sure.
audience?
Well, yeah, just to begin with, I wasn't a victim of it. I exposed it. Um, and that occurred, a certain aspect of it. And then MK Ultra, I exposed a certain part of it. And I'll get into how these events took place and where I've got to today with it. Um, uh, in the early 90s and late 80s, the United States was just getting used to of the possibility that there are extraterrestrials or aliens, that we're not alone. And during that time, the abduction phenomena had just started. And this was a very secret thing going on behind the scenes for quite some time until it finally broke through into US media environments. Um, so during that time in history, uh, I had already, through my own investigations and meeting people and phone calls, was starting to interface with people that had these types of experiences, but we didn't know. We didn't know the whole story about what was going on because I've been kind of a part of the disclosure movement in a certain fashion related to MK Ultra because I was the gentleman that came to Walter Boert, who wrote the book Operation Mind Control, the first one in 1978. This was the exposure of the church water hearings in relation to the using of human subjects, Americans, for neuroscience in forms of torture, LSD, child abduction, and so forth, as an R&D project that was already in motion that came into the United States after World War II.
And
So
can I stop you there? I
initially,
know maybe our audience might not be familiar, but the CIA was like using hospitals and
oh yeah,
on
oh yeah,
unwitting
all over the
unwitting
place.
patients who were just in the
Yeah,
hospitals. They had no idea. Some of them just given LSD by the CIA, basically.
yeah,
One, if memory serves, one of them jumped out of a window at a
yes,
hospital,
yeah,
and because he was given
correct.
LSD by the CIA, he had no idea, right? So a lot of these, they were like civilian buildings that were being used for MK Ultra, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was part of it, was the drug part, research into drugs and psychedelics. And that was fully embedded in the culture in the 60s. My business partner and fellow whistleblower was named Walter Poet. He started the underground press syndicate out of New York called the East Village Other. And he really became famous and infamous after he wrote that book in 1978, Operation Mind Control. I came in many, many years later when we posted and published Operation Mind Control Volume 2, the Special Researchers Edition, where I brought testimony into him about what essentially the behavioral science was used for and how they were faking alien abductions and using hypnosis, screen and scramble memory technology, drugs, and advanced technology on the public. So that was new news at that time and very secret, very, very, very secret in the early 90s. So when I met him, I said, okay, he found out, okay, this is what the technology is used for. And I brought in the aspect, okay, this is, they're being able to manipulate consciousness enough to create a fake abduction and make it intense enough that the person will have post-traumatic stress disorder and all sorts of syndromes related to the trauma event because CIA and all of that stuff related to MK Ultra was about behavior modification and the utilization of behavior modification for maintaining secrets, passing messages on, sex slavery, and codification of information and so forth. So that's how I met him in the early 90s because I had already been involved in the disclosure aspect with big media people behind the scenes. One of them was Bob Uccione at New York, who ran Penthouse magazine. If people look up the Alien Penthouse magazine, they'll find that was where I did that. That was a big deal back then, and it was all over the news. when that happened. But part of the information was we were finding out that they were using behavior modification technology for this type of activity. So that's how I met Walter Bowert. And then both of us put out volume 2, Operation Mind Control Volume 2, which went into all the effects of the neuroscience on culture, what was happening in court cases, what was happening in the mental health business, because it is a business, what was the DSM-5 saying about dissociative identity disorder and how that affects behavior, consciousness, business, everything. All those things, we put the research into that book, and then we published it very quietly. And we formed what was called, at that point, the Freedom of Thought Foundation, which basically was a 501c3 that stood for the right and freedom to have cognitive liberty, or the right to your own thoughts, the right to your own identity, the right to all things, the right to your own brain, the right to your sovereign self for being here, for having an existence that's not controlled by somebody else. We were the first to do that. And back then, nobody knew anything about this at all. They barely knew what was going on at all. There was a very small handful of people that was involved with this. Colonel Fletcher Prouty was involved. Colonel Tom Bearden was involved. Walter Bowert was involved. I was involved. We had to sign agreements with psychiatrists and psychologists because they were terrified, because a lot of their clients had been abused in various programs, and they became clients. So we were looking at all the neuroscience and the effects of the neuroscience on culture in the United States. So this is what's going on behind the scenes, unbeknownst to basically everybody. The behavior.
And what years are we talking about here?
This
we
was
talk
in
about
the
MK Ultra program going from the 1950s to the 1970s, but of course, we've done interviews on this show where it got, people think it ended in the 70s, but it became even more robust.
We're in it. We're in it right now, which is the reason why I'm coming out and telling everybody now, because there's been movies, media, people have been talking about this, what we did all over the place. People can handle it now, but what they can't handle and maybe not be able to handle is the reason why I'm doing this interview in the first place, and why I was put in touch with you, because I was given a lot of people to talk to, and you were on the list, because initially when the 501c3 was set up, it was a nonprofit foundation to educate the public about how important it is to maintain our cognitive liberty. This supersedes the Constitution, law, everything, right? It's your right to have your own thoughts. And as an attorney and people associated with law, they're kind of getting acquainted with this now and what this is going to mean to human rights. So to the point reason I came here to talk to you is because recently I was asked to be the chief advisor on a committee related to the brain-computer interface and its relation to the international standards for technology. That basically is they're a group of countries all over the world, and they all have committees that represent their country. Those committees determine what the standards are going to be for technology when it's commercialized and goes all over the world. Like, for instance, the phone or a toaster or whatever, it's got to meet certain safety standards and all this type of stuff. These committees are determining public policy about what's going to happen when you interface the brain, the computer, AI, and quantum. That's going to end everything, period. It's the end. It's the initiation of the decapitation of our relationship to God. Will become cybernetic, will become, instead of carbon, will be silicon-based life forms, cybernetics, and they're going to do this via voluntary compliance. Most people will walk right into it, not even knowing that they're doing it or want to do it, because there's portions of the population all over the world, in the younger generations, that feel that humanity has no hope at all, and they're going to fuse with this technology already. So the brain-computer interface, it's tied in to everything. All our warfare systems, all our banking systems, all our health systems, all in the ways we do commerce and move about in culture. This is the extinction level event, because you no longer are an organic free will human being. You're now fused. tied into the cloud. And there's a documentary film crew that's recently contacted me, and I've talked to many people behind the scenes now, because I really initially I could have commercialized myself in this chapter of my life quite well and made a huge name for myself. I'm another mind control guy, but I really didn't want to do that. I've not been really public, not as much as I used to be, because I've always been in the solution orientated thing. Don't tell an audience just a problem without telling them a solution. So I don't want to come here and say, okay, we're at the end of civilization, and that's it. Goodbye, have a nice day. Rather than inform your audience, inform the people that will see this either live or taped or a year from now or 6 months from now, that this is the point where you can no longer be a spectator, period. Because everything that's in the news today, when this will be aired, is not relevant at all. It's all misdirection. And I say it's not relevant at all, not because it's not important, because it is important, but the behind the scenes, the powers that be want everybody distracted with the Epstein and the war and Gaza and Africa and all this other stuff. When I'm in touch with a lot of people in other countries, and I've informed them that this activity is taking place. Now, to summarize it and make it relevant for people that may be new to this, Palantir, everybody knows that name. They are aiding and abetting the end of our species. Okay, so what I am saying, and I will have documents in the near future, is he's going to be sued by many people to begin the process of public dialogue, public policy, and your rights to your own brain. Now, there's already been laws that have been passed in the governor of.
You guys remember this? What's this? You guys remember that? What about these? Flashback from the past, huh? My mom found those in the attic. Where do you have cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? You guys don't remember that commercial for what cereal was that? Garbage Pail Kids. I know probably some of my newer radios probably have the smart in it, but I still have my dad's radios from like the 50s and 60s too. Teddy Ruxpin, Stretch Armstrong. That's so funny. All right, guys, we're going to call it a wrap. I think we got the point across. Yeah, that atom bomb, that's like one of the very first ones. That's like a series 1. It's in one of those baseball card slip holders. That's like 8A, Series A. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Transformers. Oh, I got a Gumby around here somewhere too. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. This was fun. I love you guys. Bye.